The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game is one of the most strategic and intensely gratifying card games out there, rewarding players with innovative deck building, shrewd technical play, and boundless game knowledge. However, new and aspiring players still face arguably the biggest barrier to entry for competitive play, the extremely steep price points for the most powerful cards available. But what if we tried to remove that barrier? In this series, we're going to be maximizing the value of every penny at our disposal to see how well we can perform on a constrained budget. Each season, we'll be investing a baseline of $50 USD into an affordable deck core comprised of the most cost-effective singles on TCG Player. For just an additional $10 per week, we'll continually expand on that core, transforming our build into the most competitive deck possible. Welcome to Rise of the Budget Duelist. Welcome everybody to week 3 of the series. Now last week we actually had a pretty strong showing at locals, going 3 and 2 with our very much early fledgling Phantom Knight build. But that being said, of course, there are definitely still improvements to be made, as is the nature of the series. So we're going to go ahead and strive towards one major goal this week, which is to actually just improve upon consistency in general, because many of the losses that we incurred last week were due to opening suboptimal hands, or hands that just simply were not able to push past their opponent's disruptions effectively. So the main objective of this week is to just improve upon the quality of our starters and extenders to just try and approach a much more well-rounded build. Now for this week, I actually am not going to be attending real life locals because that day happens to actually be my dad's birthday. So I guess you guys can wish him a happy birthday in the comments if you would like. So what I'm going to be doing to replace real life locals for this week is to actually remote duel some of you guys at home, which should be, pretty exciting. So my plan is to hop onto my Discord server and ask the lovely folks on the channel for my patrons and see if any of them are going to be up for some games, and hopefully they'll make it onto the channel this week. So that should be pretty exciting. I do plan on doing this more regularly in the future, so if you are interested in playing against me or having opportunities to remote duel me or otherwise, definitely please consider supporting me via the Patreon. It would also help out the channel and the series in particular, and would mean a lot to me. So definitely, again, check out the details in the description if you are interested in that. But that's going to be the goal, and we'll see how that pans out. I guess you'll find out in the video later on. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started with what my changes are going to be for this week. So like I mentioned, I am just going to be focused on extension and consistency boosting. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is actually replacing the Predaplant engine with just simply 3 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld. Now, this I don't think should come as any surprise that we're going to work towards this pretty soon. A lot of current PK builds are incorporating it, and it works natively with what we're trying to eventually achieve with, the Burning Abyss names as well. Now, unfortunately, this card alongside the Burning Abyss names, mostly Graph, is actually not going to fit into the budget, which is unfortunate. So I'm just sticking with the tour guide. But the cool thing about the current build actually is that Edgem Sabers is a level 3 Dark Fiend, which is a great kind of synergistic tool. So this still works with what we were already playing with in the deck. It also still is a 1-card Rusty, which is the most important thing. And even though it doesn't get as much value currently as it would with the BA names, I still think this is a much higher quality starter than something like Scorpio. It's true that Scorpio also is a 1-card Rusty, but the problem is that I kept drawing the Cobra, and that's not really where you want it to be. And I feel a lot more punishing when you get hand trapped on the Scorpio when you don't specifically pitch a Phantom Knight. So that's kind of the issues that I came across with that engine. And even though it's a pretty strong one, I just feel like the tour guide does edge it out in terms of card quality. So next up are going to just be some of the extenders. So we're just going to play a couple more than what we currently have to bump up the count a little bit. So you have 1 copy of the Psychic Wielder. This is going to be great once we get the E-Tele reprint in Grand Creators, which is something that I am keeping my eye out for. So this plus Tracker obviously are the main targets, and just as a standalone level 3 extender, it functions pretty much identically to the Tracker and to pretty much everything else that we're trying to play in the deck. And then the next thing is just going to be simply a copy of Junk Forward. This gives our Rhoda some more utility in terms of accessing an extender that, unlike Kagemucha Knight, does not start a chain. So that is pretty nice for going second, especially to just kind of make sure that we can help play 3 boards as best as we can. So that's going to be it for the main deck changes. And there is also one change that I wanted to make to the extra deck, which is the fact that Virtual World Shell Jaja simply just wasn't coming up in any of my games. So to replace that, I actually am going to be playing 1 copy of Drill Driver Respinato. And the reason this is here is to simply combat the Shark deck's ability to make the Cricket Hook that's indestructible by battle. So this thing just pierces by making it over a rank 4, which we play a couple of. And this could easily be Downer Magician as well, but Downer Magician actually does have to detach materials from itself whenever it battles, and so it goes down to 2100 eventually, which doesn't contest the Cricket Cook if they switch it back to attack position. So I figured this is a more kind of a effective option to deal with that specifically, plus the graveyard effect could come up. Of course, this card is also just extremely cheap, so won't really be any issues once we do switch over to Downerd if we go for the Zeus package later down the line. So I feel like this is a sufficient enough replacement. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just run through the main side and extra once again for this week. Alright, so starting with the main deck, we got first up the 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Torn Scales, pretty standard stuff. The 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. We have the 3 copies still of the Ancient Cloak, because even without the Scorpio, I still feel this is important just as a good normal summon when we open all the 3 extenders, which we are now playing 2 more of. And, I do want still the capacity to potentially grind if we need to. We have the 2 copies of the gloves, kind of for the similar reasons. We have 1 copy of Staingreaves, and then now we have the newly added 3 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld, followed by the extenders, 3 copies of the Kagamucha Knights to pair with Tour Guide, very good in chain blocking. We have the 2 copies of the Psychic Tracker plus the 1 copy of Psychic Wielder. And then finally, we have the Junk Forward and then the Edgem Sabers, again, very synergistic with the Tour Guide. For the spells, we are on a copy of Rhoda, 1 copy of Foolish Burial, 1 Monster Reborn. I still am actually playing the Instant Fusion even without the Predaplan package just because it's a level 3 extender. I am thinking about playing the B-Trooper Descent. It's just that with the Grand Creators coming around, I don't want to play token generation cards when a lot of people are going to be playing Token Collector, so that's why I kind of held off in it. But carrying on here, we have for traps, 3 copies of the Phantom Knights Fogblade, still very, very strong. We have 1 copy of Wing, 1 copy of Shea Brigandine. I'm cutting the sword just to see if the list is good without it, because I needed to cut a 5th card, because the Predaplan engine was 4, so that ended up being the 5th slot, because that was one of the cards I was bricking on, so I just wanted to, again, minimize that. And then finally, for defensive cards, we have 3 Book of Moon. I swapped the 2 Twin Twister in the main for 2 MST, because like I mentioned, this just is a better generic main deck back row removal, especially in terms of outing Mystic Bind. We have 3 copies of Solemn Warning to round out the main deck at 40 cards. For the extra deck, we are on 1 copy of Carabini, 1 copy of Rusty, 1 copy of Underclock. I mentioned last time that this is in here for the Arc Rebellion OTK plays, but this also can just make Rusty if I need to, which is pretty nice. There's 1 copy of Unicorn, 1 copy of Phoenix, and then we have the still 3 copies of Breaksword. This has come up before, and I anticipate that it'll keep coming up just because it's still the monster that we make most frequently. We have the 1 copy of Levier the Sea Dragon, 1 copy of Evil Swarm Nightmare, 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. We have the Raiders Knight, Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, which also you guys let me know in the comments that this thing can actually rank down instead of just rank up, which is pretty important. We have the 1 copy of Drill Driver Vespanada, which is new, and then we still have the MVP, the best monster in the entire deck, the Flame Ghost. And finally, rounding things out for the side deck, we are on the 1 copy of Pankratops, the 1 copy of Regeki, 3 copies of the Dark Hole, as well as the 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. I still want to hopefully get a chance to use these. I didn't get a chance to last week, but in theory, they're still pretty good board wipes. 1 copy of Mind Control, the 3 copies of Twin Twisters, 2 of them which moved from the main into the side deck, and then finally, for going first, 3 copies of Dimensional Barriers. So again, side deck didn't really change this week from last week, so that has remained intact. So with all that being said, again, if you guys are interested in purchasing some custom designed sleeves or playmats, definitely check out your playmat. Again, these penguins are going strong. They'll go strong for the entire series. So yeah, definitely go ahead and check out your playmat. Link is in the description box below. If you want 10% off your order, please be sure to use the code SirEmanon10YP. But with all of that being said, let's go ahead and just jump into some remote duels for this week. Alrighty, so we got 2 remote duels for you guys in this video, both up against friend of the channel and patron Destroyer TheSecond. So shout out to you and thank you for your support on this channel and this series. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, if you do want to partake in this potentially in the future, definitely feel free to go ahead and check out the Patreon and feel free to support it if you are enjoying this series as well. Check out my Discord server, both of which are in the description. I actually had a ton of fun doing this, so I definitely anticipate doing more of these kinds of setups in the future. So just as a bit of a heads up there. But yeah, this first match is going to be up against Pendulum. So yeah, we win the die roll, which is pretty important because Pendulum is known for not really playing too many hand traps, and you obviously can tell that we're not playing hand traps either in our build. So yeah, the die roll definitely is important there. This is a bit more of like a casual laid back setup. This is maybe not like the most optimized as far as like for your viewing experience. So if you have any feedback, please feel free to let me know if things like look kind of weird or anything of that sort. I know that like the camera orientation isn't the best either because like right there you can see the cards that I have as I'm filtering through my deck, and you can sometimes see the cards in my hand too. So that's something that like I didn't spend a whole lot of time really like refining because I didn't have to previously concern myself with like recording while I was playing remote duels with my prior setup, because this is like a new setup from what I had previously for like the YCS and stuff. But anyways, yeah, we go first. We Rotafir the Torn Scales. We have Kagami Merchandite as well. So we're just going to go and get off to the races here. I think the Book of Moon that I pitched for the Torrent Scales was a duplicate, so had a lot of non-engine cards in this hand, but it was totally fine. So we get access to the Silent Boots there by banishing the Cloak, and we are able to go into the Carabini here. Also, I apologize for the cable on the bottom left that you can see there. That's my headphones, and I fixed that momentarily, but I realize now that this is really distracting looking at it. But anyways, carrying on here, we're going to go and send a copy of Gloves. This way we can just get a bit more mileage out of the PK setup, so we can end up getting a boot search at the end of this combo as well. So we're just going to send another copy of Ancient Cloak here off this Rusty, since we have pretty much everything that we want. And so this way we also have a follow-up play for next turn if our board gets cracked. So we're going to go and Gloves to send a trap. I think we're sending Wing here. And then we just go ahead and trigger the Torn Scale and bring back a name so we can go for a rank 3. There are also times where you might see the video freeze a little bit, and that's because I didn't realize that when I like alt-tabbed into like a separate window to check like card text, and that would kind of affect the recording. So that's something that I had no idea until I played back initially. So that's something I'll keep in mind for next time. This is the difficulty of not having two monitors, but yeah, we work with what we have. So you saw right there, we just went into the Break Sword, Rusty the Pop Break Sword. This is pretty standard stuff. And then we're just going to bring back 2 PKs, go into the Nightmare with the Torn Scales and the Cloak that we sent as, again, a duplicate. So we can go and keep the Boots engraved so we can search another interruption. So he's going to begin off with a copy of Pot of Prosperity, and I think he banishes 3. So yeah, this is like more of a magician heavy build. Pretty similar, I think, to Triff's List in concept. So yeah, he sees True Purple Poison and a copy of the Joker there, and he picks up the Purple Poison. So just trying to break my board as best as he can, because like the Nightmare is presenting a problem, because like he can't commit to just a Pendulum Summon right off the bat. Otherwise, just Nightmare and book the entire field. So he has to actually be a bit cautious on how he approaches this. So yeah, Nightmare incidentally happens to be pretty good against Pendulum, just like historically, but it's what I'm going for blind anyway, so it happens to just work out pretty nicely here. But yeah, he also has the Star Pendulum Graph, so I think this might... I'm not sure if Triff was playing this card. I actually just don't know what Pendulum builds look like right now, to be honest. So I can't really comment too much on like the technical play on that end, just because, again, I'm not like a super seasoned Pendulum player. But that being said, like here's an example where the video freezes a bit because I was checking card text just to make sure that I knew what Purple Poison did exactly. So yeah, here he normal summons the Celestial Magician, and I think he like goes into the battle phase. I'm also checking the Celestial Magician's card text here, just because I wanted to see like if you could activate it right now with no other monsters, and yeah, you need other monsters to actually apply its effects. So yeah, that's just a kind of a small thing. But yeah, he goes, I think, into the battle phase, and right here I'm just gonna flip up Fog Blade so he can't like use the Purple Poison to out my Nightmare by just like boosting the attack, and then like he'd be able to get a pop as well in the process. So yeah, it has to reach damage calculation because Purple Poison activates, I think, before damage calc, if I remember correctly. So yeah, he goes ahead and uses Pen Call in main phase 2, because if he did that in main phase 1, then he would be able to go for the Purple Poison play. Like he'd be able to beat over the Nightmare, but he wouldn't be able to like get the extra value like with the pop, which makes sense. So he's gonna pitch, I believe, Oath Dragon to grab a double Iris and another Celestial, I believe. He might change his mind there. No, I think he's good there. So he's gonna scale the Celestial. But yeah, like I think yeah, like the Nightmare is just presenting a lot of problems. But the thing for me too is that like my materials are kind of underneath the Nightmare unless he commits, which thankfully he does. So yeah, we're able to capitalize with not only getting a value off the Nightmare, of course, but we get to simply just detach and put our PKs back in grave. And we get to book the summon off Harmonizing as well. Something to note off of Nightmare is that it can miss timing, which is something that actually does come up in the next match. But it is a when you can effect. But because Harmonizing was Chainlink 1 there, it doesn't miss timing in that like separate window, so it's okay. But yeah, we go ahead. That's enough to stop his turn. So play passes back to us. Also, I think I had an MST set the entire time, and I was just holding it for the Star Pendulum Graph, just in case. But like now, like he's under pen call, and I never would want to pop Purple Poison anyway. So my MST is not really doing a whole ton right now. But the problem right here is that I should figure out a way to OTK through 3-set monsters. One of which is a double iris, and I actually did catch just now what was set off the Harmonizing there. I think it was a Purple Poison. I'm not sure. I was literally just talking and I didn't keep track of it. But anyways, I do have to figure out what I'm going to do to try and OTK. Because if I don't OTK, then like I have already run through my best defense, which is Nightmare. And so like Fog Blades are pretty easy for Pendulum, I think, to push past. So I'm like feeling a lot of pressure to actually just OTK right now. So we go ahead and activate Rusty. We don't have a Trap Engrave, which I was kind of checking my graveyard for, so we're able to activate the Shade Brigandine. And my goal right now is actually to just take advantage of this attack position, Celestial Magician, to try and just close the game right immediately. So we go ahead and banish the Cloak that was sent to the grave under the Nightmare from last turn. To search for Boots, we trigger the Torrent skills, and now we can summon Boots at any point in time. So yeah, I want to leave the Celestial face up before we go to battle phase, just so I can swing into it with the Arc Rebellion. And this is where the Underclock Taker comes into play, and it'll be on full display in this game right here. But yeah, I spent quite a while thinking. I didn't actually cut too much of this footage beforehand. I was just kind of like leaving, and you can kind of see I have like a keyboard under there just to kind of check for like card text and stuff. But yeah, like it is nice to like be able to play remote duels just like on a more casual level. I don't think that I would ever like really enter another big tournament again. Like I would consider playing locals for sure, but not like any like huge events. But who knows? Like maybe I'll enter like a remote duel regional sometime. Yeah, I think things can always happen. So yeah, there I make a Breaksword after summoning the Boots, and then I use Rusty to pop the Star Pendulum Graph. And then I go ahead and I pop the Harmonizing and the Breaksword right here. So what I should have done, and what I'm kind of realizing right here, is that this Fog Blade is actually preventing me from attacking into the Celestial Magician, right? Because it can't be targeted for attacks. So what I should have done was just use Rusty to pop my own Fog Blade, because Rusty can target any card in the field, whereas Breaksword has to target a card in your field and then a card your opponent controls specifically. So I did kind of mess that up. So now I'm trying to like recuperate a little bit. And here I'm just like checking more stuff. I think I'm like checking the stats on like the defense position monsters in case I get stuck in a position where I just have to clear the board and hope that it's enough. But I go into the Raiders Night right here, and then I'm just kind of thinking of like the order I want to do things. I did not normal summon this entire time, so I'm just going to normal summon the Tour Guide, which I did top deck. And that kind of helped to sort of make up for the mess up that I had earlier. So now I'm not going to mess things up because I have the chance to just Breaksword, pop the Fog Blade instead, and then I can pop the Set Double Iris, which will trigger, but it's not really going to matter too much here. So right now I have 2 effect monsters. I can just make an Underclock Taker, and then I could Raiders Knight into Arc Rebellion, and then I can just for good measure bring back a Breaksword just to get more damage on board, and then I Underclock first, and then I Arc Rebellion next. And Arc Rebellion does account for original attack, so even though the Celestial gets reduced to 0, it's still like its original stats do get added to the Arc Rebellion. So that is enough to just go in and one punch the Celestial. So that's like a cool OTK, and kind of it's nice that the theory actually ended up working, because I wasn't sure if it would actually come up, but lo and behold, it did. So we're going second this time around, and you can see he's on the scythe stuff. So yeah, he goes ahead and he pitches the scythe off of the pen call, which isn't a big deal actually that he drew it and had to pitch it, because they play Baron de Fleur, which is a way to just get scythe lock back anyways, like during the standby phase and stuff. And the time pendulum graph is a good way to play against, play around a forbidden droplet, kind of similar to the way Fam Knight does it. This deck. So yeah, like just using traps as a way to bypass it, or like a secondary measure of popping. Either way is like fine. So here he goes ahead and scales up, and then he's going to pendulum summon 2 monsters, including a Harmonizing, which triggers. So that's going to summon from deck, I believe, an Oath Dragon. And this is, I think, a pretty standard play in like the Magician build, because that lets him go into Baron de Fleur in the, or on the, what was that, 4th summon, which is pretty good. And then he also hard drew Fusion Destiny, which is solid as well. So that gets him not only into the DPE, but gets him access to the Time Pendulum Graph by popping the double Iris. So now he has the pop out the trap, pop off the DPE, as well as the send off the trap too, because I think he's under pen call right now. And then he can obviously Baron de Fleur in standby phase to summon back the Artifact Scythe, and I don't have a good out to this. So yeah, this is pretty much game over. Even like we're gonna try and play it out just because we might as well. Not really much to lose. We're not playing under time or anything, because again, this is like more of like a casual competitive environment, I'd say. But yeah, he's gonna just bring back the scythe, and we are in a pretty bad spot right here. So the best I could realistically do is like wall up and try and use defensive cards to play. But like he has so many resources because he added back the Harmonizing off the Oath Dragon, and he was able to just like preserve a lot here. So I have Dark Hole, but I just totally didn't anticipate Scythe. So yeah, that was kind of just, I mean, I didn't have much better to side in anyways, to be fair. I guess like the best thing would have been like maybe Book of Moon and draw phase to hope that Baron de Fleur wouldn't like be able to bring back and standby, but I'd like need 2 of that, which I mean, that's not really, like that's still being like really optimistic. But yeah, we're gonna just like tour guide and then summon Psychic Tracker, and then like we just pass, and then the end phase he just like pops 1, sends the other, because again he's under pen call. And then as DB comes back in the standby phase, but like this is definitely like not a problem to assemble game right here, because he can Wisdom Eye to put the double Iris in scale. He also has Duelist Alliance, so he can add the Pensork, and he has Oath Dragon to add back too if he wants. Which, I mean, like he just has every resource he could ask for. So yeah, he gets to like even chain block the Harmonizing, which is pretty solid. So he gets the Pensork to pop the Iris there, and then search for, I think it was Joker or Celestial. Either is, you know, valid. And then gets to add or summon a copy of Harmonize or Oath Dragon there, I believe. Yeah. So pretty much like we already lost the game, but we're just seeing like how the deck functions, just because it's not a deck that you see super often. Yeah, you got the Celestial Magician there, and then yeah, you got the Iris trigger to get the Star Pendulum Graph, and then he gets to resummon the Baron de Fleur that he tagged out before, and then he can just go into Halqifibrax. So Halqifibrax, Selene access code, you know, the whole shebang. Gets the Tuning Magician right there. Actually, I think he backtracks and changes his mind. He's like, I'm not even gonna give you the satisfaction of game of oh no, he does do it. I think that was maybe a different game. But oh no, it was this game, yeah, because like he can't activate the Tuning Magician off the Halqifibrax, but he decided to bring back the Artemis. Although I think Selene has to summon in defense position, but I mean it realistically didn't matter at all. So yeah, anyways, we're just gonna pack that one up and then move into game 3. So yeah, we go first in game 3, and our hand is really, really awkward. We start off with Edgem Sabers, normal summoned, which is, you know, it's a pretty bad sign when you don't open any PK, when you play like 11 of the good ones. Like, St. Gears is not like the one you want to summon either, but like you play like 11 of the ones that get value, and then you also have 3 tour guides, so it's like 14 good normal summons. Obviously, they're not like exclusively normal summons, but like they're 14 cards that are better to normal summon than Edgem Sabers. But we still can make it work. So we have Edgem Sabers as like a way to at least get into Rusty, so we can like commit our Carabini into a PK name, which is good because now we still have the setup in terms of just getting Cloak into Grave, Torn Scales in the Grave off the Rusty, and then we can add the Silent Boots and then bring back the Torn Scales and summon out the Cloak or the Boots anyways. So we managed to get there, even though that hand was like really, really bizarre. So That's pretty good. Here I'm just thinking like what I want to do. I hadn't used torn scales yet either, and I'm like, do I want to relinquish more cards? And I think the answer is yes, just because like I can get more resources in the grave this way. So again, here's like another example where I pitch a follow-up Ancient Cloak. Because if I do it this way, then like I can get the fog blade back if I still want to, by doing the same thing I did game one, which is like leaving the boots and grave as you see here. So it's like I trade a fog blade to eventually end up with a fog blade in hand, but the difference is that I get a Ancient Cloak in grave without having to like commit to a weird Levier play. So like that kind of like small thing makes it all the difference. So we have two fog blades, and then we also have a D-Barrier, which I flip into standby phase because I know that this deck can play Denko. So I just wanted to play around that. And like there's not really any benefit for me to hold it. So we're calling Pendulum there, of course. He's going to Pen Call and then pitch the Penstork. So I think that's the first time I've actually activated D-Barrier in this series, whether it's like on camera or off camera. I just never got a chance to use it. But yeah, he's going to do his best here, but it's gonna be tough because like now we just like can't pendulum summon, which is like super difficult, of course. So yeah, like, but even if even if he could, he still had to deal with pretty much the same setup as game one, which is just like Nightmare plus 2 Fogblade. And so yeah, he's going to normal summon a double Iris Magician after resolving his Pen Call, and he's gonna scale up Purple Poison. So yeah, I think here he's gonna like attack into my Nightmare, and I think for a while I'm like maybe I should just let this go because like he's not gonna special summon this turn too much, and so like if I let him just walk over my Nightmare, I get my PKs back in grave, which is pretty good. So like actually think about that. Like unironically, I contemplate doing that, but I think in the end I'm like, no, I'm just overthinking this. I should just like look at what's in front of me, because I have like Rusty anyways. So yeah, I think I decided to just Fog Blade the Iris. I think for a long time about this, don't I? But yeah, I also still have Fog Blade in Graveyard, just to get the pop if I need to. But here I wouldn't get. No, there's not much of a point in doing it because I think it's Time Pendulum Graph, which is not very good. So yeah, here like it's pretty straightforward. I do it in the end phase because now I can just pop the set if it is a Time Pendulum Graph, which actually is. So that was really good for me. I like dodged a bullet on that one. So yeah, play passes back to us, and I'm feeling pretty good about this, because like now I actually have enough resources to just link away my Nightmares straight up, which seems not the greatest. But again, I feel kind of pressure to actually end the game as fast as I can because he didn't really lose too many resources last turn. So like I can maybe try and like play some more defense, which is like keeping Nightmare on the board and like controlling the game, but it's a bit of a gamble, because like again Pendulum, like this iteration of Pendulum is like more control oriented anyways, or it has a capacity to grind at least. And I'm not sure if they play more than one Time Pendulum Graph. I don't think they do, but it's possible. So I didn't want to like run at that risk, where I just get outgrinded by Time Pendulum Graph, because that's a very realistic possibility, like Oath Time Pendulum Graph, like etc etc. So we resolve our Rusty here, and then I am kind of contemplating what to do next. So yeah, I think I set the Shea Brigadier there, even though like I have a Trap Engrave, just because like I didn't have much else to really send, because I burned through a lot of my Fog Blades. Because the third one, yeah, I had 2 on the field, and the third one was banished last turn. So yeah, but here like he just asks if I'm gonna go for the same play as game one, which essentially I am. So yeah, he's just gonna pack that one up. And now we are going to go into the second match here, which is actually going to be up against Dragons. So this is going to be like, I think the last match was a good demonstration of what the deck is like kind of designed to do in like sort of a best case scenario, just because we didn't ever have to deal with hand traps. But Dragon Link, you can see it right away already. Not only did he win the die roll, but he's playing a lot of hand traps in his list, which is pretty straightforward and like pretty standard in that deck, right? So Chaos Space pitching the Effect Veiler and then getting access to the Collapse Server. He's playing Brotar, which is pretty interesting. I don't think that's like super standard right now, but he's going to go for Romulus. And again, we don't have hand traps of our own, so we are just kind of sitting tight and waiting to see what happens here. Yeah, I'm also literally wearing pajamas, which is kind of funny. I'm kind of looking at that now. But yeah, We are going to watch him combo for a bit. So he Chaos Space, gets a draw, and he didn't go into his Striker Dragon yet, so he can go for like a Pisty player if he wants to. So yeah, he can get access to his Collapse Serpent again, and then Boot Sector, and then he had a Ravine earlier, so he can like pitch to send Router, and then grab Tracer, and then like do that whole play. And he also, again, because he's normal summon Brotar, he can like summon that back off Pisty, which is pretty nice. So yeah, he has a lot of options available to him right now. So yeah, sending Router by pitching the free Collapse Serpent, adding back the Tracer. And like at this point in time, like I don't think my hand is well equipped to deal with whatever he puts up. And also like my side deck is pretty bad against this matchup because the only go first card I have is, the D barrier, which doesn't do anything against this deck. Like I can call Synchro, I suppose, but I mean realistically that's not going to be like that impactful. I guess stopping the Chaos Ruler is nice, but I mean the outstanding issue of like going second and him just like having a lot of resources to push past my disruptions is like kind of tough. And then like the go second cards, like they're okay, but I mean Dragon Link is it got a lot less like full combo and more like mid rangey, right? So yeah, here he's gonna like Tracer to get his recharger, and I went for a seal as well after resolving his Pisty to bring back the Brotar. So yeah, just like tons and tons of options. Here he goes into Ruler, I'm pretty sure, just to see what he can hit. And then he hits, you see he's playing Fusion Destiny 2, and he hits 2 of them. So yeah, like we have to contend with DPE as well. And yeah, like DPE is pretty interesting in Dragons, just because like, even if like you hit one of your Destiny heroes off Chaos Ruler, you just add it back and it's fine. I think some people argue like whether it's actually worth it to play it in Dragons. And I think it's like debatable. I feel like a lot of lists aren't playing it right now, but I could be wrong. I haven't played Dragons recently. He's just kind of thinking what he wants to do, and I'm not like, gonna not let him take back his play, just because I don't have any interruptions anyways. And again, it's like a more casual environment, just like more for like testing, right? Which is kind of the goal here. So yeah, he has Ruler after going into Verte. I think he decides on what he wants to do. Oh yeah, he drew Levianeer too. So yeah, that definitely was unfortunate. I'm pretty sure I had a warning in this hand, which I wanted him to hit, but he hits I think Shade Brigandine, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm not sure. I played this a couple days ago, but yeah, he has Quad Boil too, so we can like Quad Boil pop to bring back, and then end on Savage. So we can like end on Savage Seal DPE, which is gonna be pretty hard for me to break, especially when I am down a card. And he has Chaos Ruler Engrave as well for follow-up, as well as the standard Dasher Celestial stuff. So we are not in a very good position, needless to say. And I actually can't recall if he added Effective Veiler to his hand off the Chaos Ruler, but even that, like even if he didn't have that, like it would have been hard to play past this. But we're gonna try our best. So we draw, I think that was a Psychic Tracker there. So we're gonna Book of Moon targeting the DPE, just because like that's like one of the hardest interruptions to play past. If we like can't get to carry beating, which I mean realistically it's gonna be hard for us to get there in the first place. But yeah, we normal summon Stained Greaves, and then we summon out the Kagemucha Knight. Oh, also you can see that like my editing of the life points is actually from OBS as I was recording, and this is not in post. So you can kind of see the life points change. So yeah, that's something that I thought I'd bring up too. But yeah, we have Kagemucha Knight here, so basically my goal is to just force seal by going into the battle phase, and he's gonna bounce my my Stained Greaves, and then I can try and play main phase 2 because I again drew the level 3 extender, which is the Psychic Tracker. So we're not in like a horrible spot. Like we can play a little bit, but like we still have to deal with Savage, which is not gonna be an easy task. And so he's gonna tag into Chamber for a Tidying, which is like another problem that we have to eventually deal with. But right now we're just trying to play through this turn. I can't be like too concerned about his follow-up. I just gotta like try and advance my board state as best as I can here. So yeah, we're gonna carry Beanie here. He doesn't bother to Savage Negate this obviously because it's cost. So I feel like I'm funneling pretty hard into just getting stopped on Rusty, but I feel like that's better than the alternative, which is just to like go Break Sword and then like he negates it, but I can't do anything afterward. And because like he bounced the Stangreaves, I can actually summon it, which is pretty good. And like if I had like a Silo Boots in my hand, that would have been like extra juicy, because like that would actually accomplish something here. But alas, we did not have the Silent Boots, so the Rusty is predictably going to get stopped here, and we're just gonna set one and pass. I wonder if there's anything I could have done differently there. Like I know I had the ability to go for a rank 3 like before I went into Carabini, like I mentioned, but I just don't think it would have accomplished anything. And there was like not really any way to force out the Savage, and that is kind of an issue with the extra deck right now. Is that like there's not a lot of great ways to force stuff besides Break Sword, which is like a good way of forcing interruptions. But I mean, it's like hard to force things like get negated and then still go to Rusty, which like that requires us a high resource investment, which is pretty difficult for this deck. But yeah, he is going to pop my warning with his ZB that he brought back in standby. And then here he's like trying to figure out how to close the game. Because I actually can't remember if I have a Trap Engrave or not. I don't think I do, but I think his hand just doesn't have like a lot of gas. So he just attacks over my Rusty, and he doesn't like bring back his Chaos Ruler. Because I'm pretty sure it has a Striker Dragon in his graveyard still, or it's banished. It wasn't put back with Chaos Space yet. So yeah, we actually live another turn, and we top deck an Edgem Sabers, which is not the greatest. But I mean, we lose to pretty much any interruption here. So he's just gonna pop our Sabers, and then I'm just gonna like clear the chamber and hope that it's good enough. I mean, yeah, like realistically, it just doesn't matter too much what we do here. I don't have any cards in my hand for the Sabers, and I don't have any traps engraved for like bringing back Rusty or anything either. So yeah, now he can easily just like go ahead. I think he forgot Dasher the previous turn, but he used it here to bring back Nocto. And like Deep E comes back, and then he just like can go Chaos Ruler. I think like thinks for a bit on how he wants to do it. But yeah, he like Deep E pops, and like he uses the pop to Tiding to bring back Chamber, which just like more follow up in case. But I mean, I literally don't have any cards, so like, you just go into battle phase after bringing back Chaos Ruler, which he does here, and that is going to seal things up. So yeah, losing game 1 after losing the die roll to Dragon Link, pretty expected outcome, I would say, just given the composition of our hands. So we go first in game 2 here, and our hand is looking, I think it was pretty good. I can't exactly remember. Oh yeah, okay, so our hand was a little weird. I think our only engine cards, or like monsters, were Cloak plus Foolish, and like that's like pretty weird. So like I had the option either to like send another Cloak to search Boots to like go normal Cloak special Boots, but I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to burn Cloak that early when I could just do this play instead, which was go ahead and send Sabers off the Foolish and then just go into Carabini this way, because this makes it so I can like get I can get access to the Boots at a later point, or I can access like the Shade Brigandine 2 if I need to. So yeah, here we do a bit of like maybe like an arguably strange play, which is like I send the Boots instead of the Torn Scales, and I do this because I want to go ahead and save the Cloak Engrave. I think in hindsight, maybe I should have just sent the Torn Scale anyways. But I didn't want to like relinquish too many cards in my hand either, because I already got rid of one for the Edgem Sabers. And also I just wasn't thinking about this Gamma right here that happened on the Rusty. At least I get follow-up through this Torn Scales being added off the Cloak that I like didn't have to use initially. So that was fine. But yeah, like that was just a lot of resources right there. Just to end on 2 set back row. So we're just hoping. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about the play previously. Like maybe if I used Torn Scales there and then like pitched to send like another PK name that could have gotten me places. But I like didn't want to like banish stuff to get into Rusty either. But anyways, carrying on here, that's like kind of a lot of hindsight. So he Seyferts, or he summoned Seyfert as a normal summon. So I just decided to Book of Moon it, just to prevent him from getting access to like the Chaos Dragons. or like if he had a like router in hand to pitch or to send for it. But he has the quick launch as follow up, and he has Noctivision to summon. So right here, my other set card is Warning, and I'm trying to make sure that I just Warning at like a profitable time. And so I don't Warning like any of this. I'm pretty much saving for whichever Link 2 he makes here, which is like Seal or Romulus. Either of those I need to stop. And it would also cut off the Nocto draw since it wasn't sent for a successful Link summon. So like that is kind of like denying like 2 cards worth of resources for him. And he actually doesn't have a play after this, so he sets 1 and passes, and I'm feeling pretty good about it because like that deck doesn't play too many back row. It's pretty much just tidying, and he can't tidying right here because his Safred is booked. And so with the Torn Scales that I added previously, I can actually mount a pretty good push here. So we're actually back in the game, and my Rusty is in grave, so I need to summon the Torn Scales so I can get a trap in a grave. Because I actually drew a tour guide for turn, and I was thinking about summoning it, but this play was like more necessary. And also I had a Edgem Sabers in grave anyways, so the value off tour guide would have not been as like immense because it would just been tour guide for tour guide. So here I'm just gonna send a trap so I can bring back the Rusty and keep playing, because then I could just go for like rank 3 plays after resolving Rusty. And again, I'm pretty confident that he doesn't have like an interruption. Like his interruption would have to be another hand trap, like in the form of a Veiler specifically, or I suppose like just Nibiru. But yeah, we're just trying to like get resources for the time being, and so like I'm feeling pretty safe at least for this early stage of the turn. So like once Rusty resolves, now I'm like feeling pretty good about it. I go ahead and send the Ancient Cloak. And here I have a couple of options. So like I could go for a really conservative route and just not really commit to anything. Like I could have maybe just like sent a Boots and then like ended on double Fall Blade, which would have been fine. But I also like I'm not sure if that would have been enough for like to stop his play, just because I know that like Boot Sector Launch is coming down next turn, and that's gonna like summon back Tracer from Graveyard, which does quite a lot. And so like Fall Blade's like a decent answer to Tracer, but I didn't feel super comfortable with it. But maybe I should have just like gone for that play anyways, just because it played better into Nib, or better around Nib, I should say. Because right now I'm playing pretty hard into it. So that's something to think about. Is that yeah, maybe I should just like respect Nibiru, because he had Gambit me last turn, so there was nothing for him really to Nibiru. So yeah, I think if I were to play this again, I probably would have just gone for the more conservative route. But instead, what I do is I just go ahead and search for a Boots. I summon the Boots, and then I think about like just what his back row could be for a second, because like I'm pretty sure at this point it's just tidying. So yeah, I can just go into Break Sword, and I'm thinking what I want to end on here as well. And it's like the best I can do is just Nightmare plus 1 Fall Blade, which is 1 off of Rusty, because the only PKs I would have in grave would be the ones underneath the Break Sword right here, which are the Boots and the Torn Scales. So I wouldn't be able to keep Boots in grave, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm just gonna go and pop the Safert, and then bring back 2, and then we just go into battle phase, deal some damage. And then we just make Nightmare and hope that Nightmare Fall Blade is good enough. So yeah, we are just going to pass on this. We don't have a trap to bring back Break Sword to Rusty's zone, which would have been nice. But if Fall Blade were to leave the field by virtue of him linking away, that would have been like kind of the sort of plan B. So of course he has Boot, which we know he has. So he's going to bring back the Tracer. I don't Nightmare this because he could just chain Tracer popping itself, and then I'd have to like Fall Blade it, and that'd be like expending 2 resources on just 1 Tracer. I'd rather just like Fall Blade the Tracer if he decides to use it afterward, because like then the Nightmare just wouldn't have mattered. I would have like accomplished basically the same thing. So he summons Collapse Serpent, and then I decide to book it, and then he chains Tracer to target the Collapse Serpent. I chain Fall Blade on Tracer. And then here's what gets crazy. He chains Red Reboot to that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. He actually top decked that one too, which is like pretty insane. So yeah, that definitely was really bad, because now he gets to pretty much resolve everything. He gets Tracer, he gets Wyvern Burster to hand. I can't Book of Moon the Recharger because the Tracer was not Chain Link 1. So this is what I was talking about earlier where Nightmare can miss timing. So what happened there was it was Collapse Saving got summoned, right? So it was Nightmare Chain Link 1, and then Tracer Chain Link 2, and then Fog Blade Chain Link 3, and then Reboot was Chain Link 4. So basically the Nightmare was Chain Link 1, so it wasn't the last thing to happen. Tracer was Chain Link 2. So, or rather, the summon of Recharger off the Tracer was not the last thing to happen because Tracer is Chain Link 2. So I cannot Book a Moon there because Nightmare is when you can. So misses timing, which is rough. I mean, he still would have gotten access to this Chaos Ruler anyways because he had the Wyvern Burster. So it's not like I probably would have Book of Mooned it, I don't think. But yeah, I Book of Mooned this Chaos Ruler just because like I want as little of my board to get cleared as possible, and I don't have like a guaranteed window to use Nightmare later, so I decided to just use it now. But yeah, he picks up a Tracer. I think he reveals 3 Veiler off the Chaos Ruler, which is pretty funny. But he did not normal summon, so he can like normal Tracer, special the Wyvern Burster, and go from there. And I think he decides between Savage and DPE, but he just goes DPE because I mean it's very good in simplified game states, obviously. So yeah, going for that, and he has good follow up here as well. I think he forgot that he didn't go into battle phase yet because he puts this DP in defense. So he actually doesn't clear both my monsters. And that's like not hugely relevant, but definitely could have mattered, especially because he was on such low life points after this Verte resolved. So yeah, he goes ahead and he pops my Rusty just so I can't get more value off of it next turn and it gets banished. Because like it was between that or like what he knew was a known Fog Blade. But like also I set warning off of the red reboot, so he has to consider that as well. The fact that like if DP would ever activate, I could just warning it in grave. But yeah, he goes and just pops my Rusty, and he passes on this. So I have to deal with the DP with not a whole lot of resources in grave, but it is enough still. Because I have a Boots plus a Torn Scales in there. So yeah, I can like go ahead and banish the Boots to search for a trap, which I can pitch off the Fall Blade off the Torn Scale, excuse me, to get more value, which is pretty nice. So yeah, I'm just trying to think about how I can end the game right here as well, because kind of similar to the previous match, I feel like the onus is on me to end the game as fast as I can, because he has DP, he has obviously Dasher, Celestial, and then like the Chaos Ruler is a big body, which ends up being more follow up too. So yeah, just a lot of things. Yeah, so I search for a Fall Blade. I'm not concerned about like grinding right now, so I don't mind like just discarding this Fall Blade. I'm pretty sure I already went through Wing, if I'm not mistaken. I think I did that the last turn. So I pitch Fall Blade here, and I'm just gonna send another PK name just to try and get things going. Because right now I'm actually able to answer the DPE pretty reliably because like if he ever activates, I have Fall Blade, which was reset off the red reboot. So pretty much I'm just trying to figure out how to assemble a game, and that's like not too hard to do. I should have realistically done this a bit faster, but I just wanted to make sure I was not messing this one up. So yeah, gonna go ahead and Cloak to search for Boots, and then we got like special Boots, and then honestly I could have just gone for Break Sword straight off the bat, but I think I go into Levier just to go for more resources, because I could have ended on, or I would have gone into Break Sword afterwards anyways, as you'll see, because I do have this Trap in Grave. I mean, it doesn't really matter that I Levier here because again, like the goal of my goal should not be to grind, because like I'm probably gonna lose the grind here, especially because my Rusty is gone. But yeah, we go into Levier anyways. I'm just like seeing if he like uses DPE at this point because like I mean it doesn't really matter if he DPEs here or not. But yeah, here we go ahead and we Veiler or we Levier. Yeah, like I think the connection was pretty like wonky here as well, because like I wasn't entirely sure if he had like responses, so I think I was just checking. Yeah, we had top deck Hcabe tonight, so yeah, we boost our Nightmare just because we can off the Ancient Cloak, and then we go into Break Sword, and this of course will force the DPE, to which I would chain the Fog Blade and that should be a wrap at that point. Because I will be able to go, break sword effect to pop the DPE. He chains the DPE, and they bring back 2 PKs. And then here's like the cool thing, which is, as you guys pointed out last time, the ability for me to rank down off the Raiders Knight. I use warning here to cut off DPE. Like, not that it really matters too much because we're trying to end the game here anyways. But yeah, we just go and we overlay. I skipped a step there. I accidentally made break sword even though that was illegal there, but I skipped a step just because I wanted to rank down off the Raiders Knight, and then use the effect to pop the Chaos Ruler, and then effect Engrave to bring back 2. I mean, not that matters because it's on 550, but that was enough for games. So yeah, I mean, that shouldn't have taken that long, to be honest, but I mean, I just wanted to make sure that I had game on board. But yeah, game 3, he goes first. His hand's not amazing, but it's good enough. So he summons Recharger as his normal, which, is never like what you really want to be doing. But I mean, it worked out here because here he's going to just quick launch into his Tracer. And he's going to go for a very modest end board, which is not even like Chaos Ruler stuff or like Seal Pass, but he goes into DPE Pass, which, DPE Pass is pretty nice, huh? So yeah, here comes the Verte. And now we are staring down DPE, which is very, very problematic for sure, because my hand, it's good, but it's very weird. If I remember, it was Tour Guide, 3 Kagamucha Knight, and Silent Boots. So yeah, our hand is good, but it doesn't have like a variety of extenders. Like if it was like, Kagamucha Knight plus like a Psychic Monster plus like Junk Forward, that would have been like pretty much what we would want. Because then we just have like a lot of ways to push past, this DPE. But those other 2 Kagamucha Knights aren't really doing too many favors. And I think I draw a trap for turn. So yeah, here we go, Tour Guide and Kagamucha Knight. And so we are pretty much in a pretty good spot because we get the Edge Sabers out of our deck too. So that's like one more link material to kind of help, push past this disruption. And here, I should be kind of thinking about hand traps, and I do think about the hand traps. But I'm like, all right, I can play around like Valor pretty decently. Obviously, because you can't really Valor Carabini profitably. So I'm like, here I can just get like more access into PKs, and like even if I get stopped on Rusty, like if Rusty gets Valored, I should be in a fine position. But yeah, what I don't account for is Gamma, which he's gonna actually make live pretty soon here by using DPE to pop itself. Like, even though like right now my board is pretty immune to DPE destruction, just because like I'm summoning everything to the zones that Carabini points to, and Carabini protects itself with its own effect. But yeah, like he's gonna vacate his monster zones just to turn on his Gamma, which is like really, really heads up. So yeah, here he goes ahead and he like tries to pop DPE, or pop with DPE, but obviously my entire board is protected. But I mean, that wasn't really his end goal anyways. His end goal was just to turn on Gamma. And I realized this, and I think I had a play actually around it, but I didn't think about it. So what I do is I go into Rusty, and then I just activate Rusty immediately, but I have Boots in hand. So what I should do is I should just summon Boots and then Rusty, because if Rusty gets Gamma'd, then he puts bodies on board to where I can just overlay the Tour Guide and the Boots into the into Breaksword, and then I could pop Gamma. And then because I sent the Ancient Cloak earlier, I could bring back 2 and then like end on something at least, which is definitely not too bad. But yeah, I did not do that the best way because now I got Gamma'd and I don't have anything really to work with. So like I end up doing a really weird play, which is like I go and banish the Cloak to search for Shade, and then I activate the Shade, summoning it, which allows me to summon the Boots then, and then go Levier just to get more follow-up. But it doesn't end up anything like actually productive. So yeah, what I should have done was, if I wanted to play around Gamma, I should have used Carabini to send like the the Torn Scales immediately. Like if I was thinking that far in advance, and these are the things that like you definitely can do. I just wasn't thinking. So these are good lessons to learn. But yeah, like I could send Torn Scales off the Carabini, and then like I do the play with like the just summoning boots when I summon the Rusty, and then after Rusty I get Gamma, and then I can like break sword to pop, and then bring back the what's it called, torrent scales and the boots, and then I can like torrent scales pitch an extra Kagamucha Knight, and then I could send pretty much anything I want there, which is pretty nice. Like I could send like Cloak at that point, and then I could like end on, you know, I could end on like more stuff, or I could like send a spare boots, which would probably win better, and then like end on Evil Swarm Nightmare plus Fog Blade, through Gamma DPE, which would have been pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, like even if I did all of that, like his DP would have been a pretty strong force to deal with. Like I would have had to have like, I don't know, Book of Moon to DP with Nightmare, and then he chains DP, and then he chained Fobblade. But then like then all he has to play is like, or play through is one Nightmare, which is not too hard for Dragon to do, especially with or Celestial Dasher follow up. But yeah, you can see here I took a while to kind of like think about what my play was there, but it ends up just being Levier to bring back, and then I think I just pass on this. Yeah, my hand is double Kagamucha Knight, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, I used one of the Kagamucha Knights as like material that I stacked. Yeah, so here I end on a Fog Blade, but yeah, it could have been Evil Storm Nightmare if I had the ability to go into Break Sword. Like I could have still gone to Break Sword, but I didn't have enough PKs and Grave to bring back stuff, which is a problem because like I needed to banish the Cloak to get access to the PK body to turn on the boots, right? So yeah, he's gonna go ahead and dash or summon Pankratops, which is that's pretty rough for me. And he also is able to bring back his DB, of course. So yeah, now like my backward's pretty much gone here, because like no matter what I do, he can just DB at any point, and then I could like chain Fobblade, but he just chains Pankratops anyways. He here normal summons Valor, so he just gets the Celestial draw too, and he has like free reign over the board. So yeah, his monsters also like help clear themselves, which makes Boot Sector, Summon Tracer, Recharger still a possibility, which you'll see here in a second. But yeah, he is going to DP, and then I chain Fobblade, he chains Pankratops, and then he targets the Fobblade. And then here I chain my other set, which is a Wing, and that I think that was my top deck. So yeah, I Wing to target my Levier, and here he DB pops my Wing instead of the Levier. I mean, because he wanted to keep the bodies on board for the Boot Sector launch, which these should be in defense, but it's not gonna matter. But if he just like attempted to pop my Levier, like it wouldn't be destroyed because of the Wing anyways. And then like that's like one less kind of a attack he has to commit, or like one less like access code pop, for instance. So yeah, like if he wanted to keep the bodies, that was fine. He would still had that if he done that play. But yeah, I just think he was like kind of focused on just keeping everything on the field, which is fair. He goes for Chaos Ruler here. He also has Noctivision, which I think was one of the Celestial draws. And he hits Chamber and Grave too, and I think it's Tidying. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, he again has like a lot of kind of ability to do what he wants here. So he goes for Masquerena so he can get the Noctivision draw. And here he's deciding what he wants to do. I'm not sure if he is able to OTK me from this position. I think he spends a bit of time just trying to think about it. Because I also have a Wing Engrave and Fobblade too, so I have like many traps to bring back the Rusty, which is something that he is considering as well. So yeah, I think that was like a D barrier that was milled off the Chaos Ruler here. So yeah, that would have been also like hugely problematic. But yeah, he's spending some time thinking here, and like right now my hands are pretty much tied. I don't have any interruptions left. Yeah, so he has Tidying to bring back a Chamber, and then he searches another Tidying. And yeah, right now I'm just hoping that I can like survive and without having to use like my traps to bring back Rusty, ideally. And that way I can like use its mount to push next turn. But I mean, he has DP coming back anyways, so like it would be hard in that like kind of scenario that I actually managed to live. Just because like if I bring back Rusty, just DP pops it at any point, and then I just lose. Plus, he just searched tiding, so he can also tiding and bounce it, which banishes it, and then I lose. So yeah, it's not looking too good out here. So he sends, I think, a Brotar there, or he like pitches it from his hand after he goes like for the Romulus stuff. And he never actually even used Tracer this turn, I don't think. So he was in a pretty good spot right here. I don't recall if he has a Levia near access. I don't think so. But he sends a Safer to his graveyard anyways. And so he has Ruler here to banish a Light and a Dark. And I don't think he has Chaos Space, but he's just going to go and just clear my board. So he's going to make Access Code Talker, which is pretty good. And it's also indestructible by card effects, so he's going to make it with IP. So that makes like my options a lot more limited because most of my removal is like via Breaksword or Rusty Pops, and that won't work. So yeah, like even like I have so many obstacles even if I live here, which I actually do, by the way. He's gonna just pop 2 with access code, and he's gonna attack twice into my Levier, which is on 23. So it actually absorbs a lot of damage for me. But yeah, definitely not enough for me to like actually solidify my position in this game. The access code was also on 43, which is something to note. But yeah, here I decide if I want to end the phase, and I decide against it because like it doesn't actually like change the equation too much. I don't want to like bring back Rusty before I have to. I want to see what I work with, just because I want to like bait out whatever disruptions and then just kind of work from there. So here I'm in a pretty interesting spot because I have Kagemucha Knight and I drew Psychic Tracker. So here I actually put back the Kagemucha Knight to bring back Sabers instead of just normal summoning the Kagemucha Knight. Because I want to do all this without normal summoning. Because I have a play to potentially get a Torrent Scales to my hand to normal summon, which definitely could come up because I have a Cloak in my graveyard. So here I get 2 level 3 bodies on the field, and I'm just hoping that like this play will force out something. I mean, which it kind of does have to. And so he is thinking if he wants to do anything, because like he'll either have to commit tiding or his DPE. He chooses to commit his DPE right here, and I'm actually fine with this because like the extra level 3 body on board is pretty relevant to help like make me go for the what's it called, Break Sword if I need to. So next. I have like 2 traps, so I have like multiple options. I also have, again, the Ancient Cloak. So I decided to go for the Ancient Cloak here, just because I don't have Torn Scales yet. And so I want to just like make sure it gets into rotation, even though I don't have anything in hand to pitch. So I go into Break Sword, and this is going to force out tiding some way, shape, or form. And I don't, unfortunately, have a second PK engrave besides what would be the Torn Skills that I can bring back. But he has a Veiler anyways, so now I'm like, oh, so not only do I have to deal with the, what's it called, the Tidying, but also the Veiler, which I'm not sure if that was what he added off the Chaos Warrior, I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, like this is just too much for me. Like I can't deal with like DBE coming back, plus like all this follow-up. Plus like, I can't act out the access code either. So, I mean, we're just going to try for the Hail Mary, right? Like, we might as well. So, we're just going to go and, wing to bring back the Rusty. And that's just going to get immediately outed, but we might as well try. I don't know why it's taking me so long to think of this play. But, yeah, like, this is, like, something, too, with, like, remote duels that, like, I like talking to my opponents as well when, like, it's a more casual environment like this. So, that's why maybe it takes some time. But yeah, he bounces it, and then I just kind of like make sure that I don't have any play. I mean, I could bring back the Torn Scale here, but I mean, he has access code and like everything that he could ever want. And I'm like thinking, I was like mentioning to him, I was like, oh, I don't have the option to crash, which is what you saw me do there, to bring back PKs. They don't have enough PKs, so yeah, we lose this match. Alright, so we're here at the conclusion of the video. We don't have any packs open this week, of course, because we did not go to locals. But yeah, I think the deck is coming along pretty nicely, I would say. I mean, there's still obviously problems with the deck, mostly going second. Our defensive card pool is looking pretty lacking, especially like the side deck and just like in general. If we lose the die roll, it's very very hard to play against just a lot of combo matchups right now. But I think the engine itself is pretty solid. The only thing I really could ask for is just Graph Seer, and I thought I would get around to it this week, but we didn't. So that's gonna probably just be the change that I make for next week, even though it'll eat up most of the budget. I really do want to resolve the outstanding issue though of just our side deck being pretty weak and just like the main deck defensive slots being not the best either. So I'll see what I can do in the upcoming weeks right here. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this week's episode for another edition of Rise of the Budget Duelist. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Really does mean a lot to me that you guys stick around and watch these videos because they are super fun to make. However, they are the most time consuming by far. So yeah, would really appreciate it if you guys like the video, love to comment, share the video around with like friends if you guys have friends who might enjoy this type of content. And I guess if you made it this far into the video, what should I have you guys type in the comments? Type in 3 Kagemucha OP because that was something else. But yeah, again, that's gonna do it for the video. Please feel free to check out my affiliate links and my Patreon, which are all in the description below if you want to help support the channel. And until next time, I will catch you in the next video. See you guys.